The Key to Marketing is Not What You Think with Gyi Tsakalakis, episode 81. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10x effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we have an amazing guest interview with somebody who's quickly becoming a good friend of mine, Gyi Tsakalakis. Now, Gyi and I crossed paths back in towards the end of last year, and since then, he's been with me on the Law Firm Growth Summit. His company, Attorney Sync, was a sponsor of the Law Firm Growth Summit. He's been on a number of the live streams we've been doing now during the COVID pandemic. And we were doing a 10-day COVID live stream, profitwithlaw.com/COVID. You can check it out there. And Gyi has just been a big supporter of what I'm doing, but more importantly, he's very well known in the legal marketplace as a very high level and influential marketer. And it's obvious from the various conversations that we've had together that Gyi just knows his stuff. Now, Gyi is the president and founder of Attorney Sync. He is also a dad. He's also a lawyer. He's also an entrepreneur. He is also a expert at SEO. He loves coffee and whiskey and Michigan football, which comes up in this conversation. So I'm going to let Gyi do an introduction for himself and really tell you all about himself. But we definitely want to share this with you because the conversation focused on a topic that or an area that is not your first thought when it comes to marketing. And we get into a conversation about where you should start when you're at the beginning stages and then where you should focus on later on. And it all circles back to really understanding what's going on with the data you're getting back from your marketing efforts. And really a good conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm hoping to have Gyi back again because there's so much that we didn't cover that I'd like to still get to for you. So I hope you like this interview with him. I'm going to cue that up in just a moment. Before I do that, I just want to let you know we're just a few days away from closing this offer down and increasing the price. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Mark Homer from GNGF, another marketing agency and another person who I've become really close with since I met him second half of last year, Mark Homer and I and Melanie Leonard from Streamline Legal have collaborated to create an unbelievable resource for you. Now, depending on who you are, so this might not be for everyone listening to this, so let me just give you the criteria, and you don't have to meet this, but this is who it's designed for. So it's designed for somebody who's in the 0 to 250K revenue range with their law firm. You probably will feel comfortable in there all the way up to 500K of revenue, but beyond that, it doesn't really make sense for you to get the support at this level. But really what it's designed for is for those law firm owners who are doing everything themselves. They are wearing multiple hats, and you need to have a go-to resource where you can get the support that you need when it comes to marketing, when it comes to technology, and when it comes to finances, financial operations, understanding the business of running your law firm, as well as staffing issues and staffing capabilities. So what we did is we brought together the best minds for you when it comes to marketing, tech, and business operations. And that's what the three of us bring to the table. And what we're doing is we are providing one call every week. So every single week you have a support call where each of us will be handling or teaching you and answering questions on these three main areas of running your law firm. So if this sounds amazing to you, what's going to sound even more amazing is this offer that's ending. And that is, it's going to end up being $150 a month when we're done with launching this product. And right now you can get in at $27 a month. Literally $27 a month. I mean, that's like the price of a lunch for the entire month. And you can have that at that price for your entire life in the program. So as long as you remain a member, you have that price locked in. It will never go up. And we've limited this to 30 seats, and there's only a few seats left. We're also going to increase the price when the live stream series is over. So literally the end of this week is when the price goes up. So you're listening to this on April 2nd. On April 6th, the price will be going up. So you literally have 4 days to join at the $27 price point. And after that, it is going up to $57 a month. So don't lose this opportunity. Take advantage of this opportunity. Go to profitwithlaw.com/incubator to join the Law Firm Growth Incubator and be one of those smart attorneys in the room who has gone and gotten the help that they need so that they can continue to wear multiple hats and do a good job at it. So if you need help with your marketing, or you need help with your tech and processes, or you need help with understanding your numbers and just running a better business, you definitely want to come and join us in the Law Firm Growth Incubator. And that is at profitwithlaw.com/incubator. If you're in the shower, if you're running, if you are driving, do not worry. This is linked up in the show notes. Show notes can be found at profitwithlaw.com/081, profitwithlaw.com/081. That is the episode number. You can always get it there, or look in your podcast player. We try to put these in the description of the episode, so hopefully that's linkable right there. You can just click on it and move through that process. So looking forward to seeing you in the incubator, but let me not hold back any longer. Here is Gyi Tsakalakis with my interview with him, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you tomorrow. Gyi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, our paths crossed. Interestingly, we kind of emailed before that, but at the After Dark party at the Clio conference back was it in October in San Diego? Maybe November, I forget. I think
back
October.
Where we used to go outside.
Yes, when we used to actually be near people and in close proximity to other humans, and physical events was still a thing. So we had the pleasure of meeting each other personally right before we went into our Law Firm Growth Summit. You were a speaker there, and we've since had the opportunity to showcase you again on our live stream series. And depending on when this airs, if the series is still going on, go to profitwithlaw.com/COVID, and you could join us. We're doing a series of 10 days of live streams, all about dealing with the current situation, the current pandemic. But I would like to take a step back and not assume that anybody on this podcast has heard of you before, knows who you are, and just give us an introduction. Let us know your background, how you got to where you are today as the president of Attorney Sync. What does Attorney Sync do? Just give us a little bit of flavor to the conversation, maybe even a little bit of personal information about you, so we can know who we're talking to.
Sure. So it all started back on a January night in 1979. No, we'll skip forward. That's when I was born. I'll date myself. We founded, so I was a trial lawyer for a very brief period of time, worked at a small firm, and, having conversations with our lawyers, this, 2005-ish, which, in the grand scheme of things, the internet was already here, Facebook was already a thing, but, it's funny looking back, a lot of the conversations I had with attorneys back then was something like, people aren't going to use the internet to hire lawyers. And I was like, that just doesn't seem right. And in fact, they already were using the internet to hire lawyers. And that trend has only continued. So in 2008, my business partner, Jeff Berman, who's a friend of mine from undergrad at Michigan, Go Blue, founded Attorney Sync. He had a lot of background in working in lead generation services for at-home services, so like replacement windows, and does had a sales background. And I was a lawyer, and I started as a computer science major. Decided I didn't want to be a coder. It was not as exciting in 1997 as I think maybe coding is now. And so I went to law school, became a lawyer, but I always had a kind of technical and entrepreneurial mindset. And so eventually we founded the business. We've been helping lawyers put their best foot forward online since 2008. And we, our real DNA is search marketing. And, but, we really can deliver soup to nuts. And I think our real strong suit is strategic consulting for how do you connect the dots from a search to a click to a call to a fee. So it's always morphed into like more of a big business intelligence consulting from that standpoint, but that's what we do. I live in Chicago. I have a wonderful wife and a daughter and a son who are 3 and about 18 months respectively, and they're now my coworkers. And so we're navigating those uncharted waters now. And what else? I like whiskey. I'm addicted to coffee, and I'm a student of Stoicism.
Right. I knew there was a reason that I really liked you. First of all, born in 1979. That's me too. Second of all, 2 little ones. Mine, I'm about 12 months ahead of you, so I've got a 4.5 and a 2.5-year-old.
Does it get better?
No. I actually have 3 much older kids. I've got a 20, 18, and 17-year-old as well. So I do know what the journey looks like, but I don't want to spoil the fun for you. I don't want to take the mystery out. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah,
enjoy the ride.
Day to day, one day at a time.
This is a beautiful age, by the way. So from now until 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range, they're extremely cute. And the cuteness overrides everything else that's going on. It kind of balances it out, and then the cuteness goes away, and there's really nothing to offset the other side of it. And that's when true parents really show up. You need to rely on your love to counteract the innate human nature of what you really want to do to those kids.
Exactly, it's a survival mechanism. We were talking about that with Dina earlier. Cuteness is for survival.
Yep. So we've got the kids in common, and then also I have a background in IT. I was never a coder, but I did spend 20 years in the IT industry before starting my accounting firm, which then morphed into business advisory services and ultimately landed on the law firm industry as the niche that I work with. So very interesting parallels that we have. Now, I don't have Michigan football, so I'm
congratulations. You're lucky.
As a matter of fact, I think if I got into college football, my wife would kill me because the NFL is enough. It's enough of a distraction from everything going on. But I do enjoy the game, so have that as well. So really good to know who you are, and I don't know if I realized that you actually were an attorney. So I think that I missed that somewhere along the way. So another interesting fact. But what I love about everybody's stories on the podcast here is that everybody's got their own unique journey. And each one of you listening, I mean, you're creating your journey right now, and you have the opportunity to talk about your story and connect with people in a certain way. So I really love just finding out these kind of details about people. Now, something interesting that you shared is you started talking about what Attorney Sync does and how you morphed into more of an analytics type company and understanding your numbers. My guess is that it's probably never too early to do that, but that smaller law firms probably don't have the budget to spend on looking at that kind of stuff. So what size firm does Attorney Sync typically work with when it comes to this kind of work?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's honestly, it's all over the map because different firm sizes and practices, they're almost, every practice is unique in some way. And so, if you're a smaller firm, we were talking about this earlier as well, you actually, even if you don't have money, you have another resource, which is time, right?
Right.
And so for those types of clients we work with, it tends to be more education, training. How do we teach them how to fish so they can do a lot of this stuff on their own? And then, for the bigger firms where firm leaders have transitioned out of the roles of doing the day-to-day, we take on more of the heavy lifting, and everywhere in between. So sometimes it's consulting, sometimes it's more soup to nuts, like just outsourced digital. But my thing that I always talk about, and I'm a vendor. I'm a vendor of marketing services. And before you pay a single dollar for anything, couple of tips. One, you've got to have a basic language so you can even make an informed hiring decision, or whether you're buying something, whether you're buying software or working with a consultant. Get the basics down. There's tons of free resources on internet marketing. It's shockingly, the internet's full of resources on internet marketing. HubSpot and Moz would be two. Moz.com would be two places I would start if you wanted to kind of get the basics. And two is that, as the pendulum swings, like the more that you get that basic language, get some training, learn it. You can spend some time doing this stuff, but before you spend a dollar, you have to know what success looks like and define those KPIs in advance. That's the bare minimum. Otherwise, you end up buying links and likes and stuff that you don't even know what to do with, and it doesn't pay your rent. And then you conclude that the internet doesn't work, right? And it's full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've come across this so many times where, somebody thinks that they're going to solve their problem by throwing money at it. And then they just partner with the wrong company and the wrong outfit and make that decision. They don't even know how to analyze whether it's the right company or go into it knowing this is the marketing plan I want to implement. I just need to find the provider to do it. Instead, they find a provider and let them just run with the plan, and they usually don't even get to know what it is that you really do. You're just like, oh, I'm an estate planning attorney. Okay, great. We work with estate planning attorneys. We're gonna do this for you, and you don't even know what they're doing. So, I definitely, I love that as a starting point, is just to learn some basic language and educate yourself. But one thing that I think is a problem is that you can, as a business owner, especially if you're in early stages, and I don't want to focus only there because we have a diverse set of listeners here, but if you're in the early stages, you end up in this rabbit hole of learning and trying out new tools, and you're not doing actual lawyer work, right? So how does somebody navigate this? Or actually, let's table that for a moment, because it's part of a bigger question I wanted to ask you. One of the things that I try to get every time I have somebody with a marketing background on the podcast is I try to understand or help our listeners understand what is your vision of the trajectory of the marketing curve for a firm from when they start through the growth phases. At the beginning, there's got to be a starting point, right? It's got to be something that is where they should focus. And there's information all over the place. Oh, you should write a blog. You should start a podcast. You should do YouTube videos. You shouldn't do any of that. You should do billboards. You should do TV ads. No, you should do networking, word of mouth, go to your friends. The advice is unlimited. It's all there. Where is there a starting point that you think that everybody should start at and really get good at it? I know that marketing is the front end, right? It's what's going to bring the leads in, but you also need to learn how to sell. You also need to learn how to deliver the services. So there's a value in going slow at the beginning. So having a slow front end at the beginning so that you can figure those things out before you put fuel on the fire. What are your thoughts on that and what that looks like from infancy to through toddler and into adulthood for a law firm?
Sure, I love this question, and I'm going to give you the dreaded answer of it depends. But I'm going to try to walk through. I'm going to try to walk through some just kind of thinking about this in the context of. I love the infant and toddler analogy since we're living that life right now. So you're brand new. You started your business. Let's assume that you've already got your formation documents done. And my thing is your mantra, regardless of if you're an infant, a toddler, an adolescent, or an adult, is to focus on the client experience part. And so I'm going to say that, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, duh, client service, do client service. What's that mean? But client experience is your marketing plan. We talked about Clio earlier. If you haven't downloaded the Clio Legal Trends Report, you should. There's a lot, your whole marketing plan's in there. Because guess what they did? They went out and asked people, what are your biggest frustrations with finding lawyers? What are your biggest frustrations with working with lawyers? Solve those problems first, and clients will come. So what does that mean? Well, if you haven't had a single client, you better have a very good delivery mechanism for servicing the client. So if you're thinking you're going to go work complex medical malpractice cases on your first day, you're not going to deliver a great client experience. So it really touches everything, because it touches everything from your knowledge and experience and skill as a lawyer. It touches reputation. It touches your relationships. It touches the technology you choose to use. It touches the marketing channels that you're going to pursue. But at the end of the day, it's all about the client. So put the client first from day one, and then start to build a plan with the client at the center of your practice. And another plug for Cleo and Jack. Jack's got a book out, so we can put that. And do you do show notes? Links and show notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll link up Jack Newton's book in there.
Yeah, I would check that out. So as we, using the infant to toddler, so you start with, okay, what should I be? So, okay, I got it, Gyi. What the heck does that mean? I put the client first. Well, number one, putting the client first means only pursuing clients that you are competent to handle. That's both a knowledge, skill, and experience thing, and that's also a bandwidth thing. So, these lawyers that go out there and they're like, "Oh, I'm generating leads." Okay, well, if you want to have a heavy referral practice where you're referring a lot of those potential clients out to people who can handle them, a lot of lawyers do that. Some people frown upon that. My thing is, as long as you're working within your state's rules of professional conduct, I have no problem with it. But that's a much different type of practice than someone that's going to say, look, I'm working these cases. And remember, you can go out and spend all this money on marketing stuff. If you can't deliver for the client, if their experience isn't fantastic, it's going to catch up with you. It's either going to catch up with you in online reviews, it's going to catch up with you in grievances, it's going to catch up with you in reputation in your community. And so that's why, regardless of what you do, whether it's a YouTube video, a blog post, whatever you're going to do, think about the client first, how you can deliver value, how you can build relationships. So I know that's not the advice that people want to hear because they want the full game plan, but at least that's a framework for starting to think about how you should be approaching the problem.
Yeah, I actually start the journey even earlier than that when I work with my coaching clients, and you touched on it, but it's not obvious from what you said, and I think you're going to agree with what I'm going to share. You need to get really, really clear on who that client is, right? If you're going to go out into the marketplace with a marketing message, you have to be talking to a person, and the person has to be feeling like, oh my goodness, they're in my head, they're talking to me. And if you don't know who that person is, if you have your own insecurities about who do I want to work with and what am I actually selling, you can't possibly go out and have effective marketing. So you need to first figure out, yes, I concur, you need to be able to fulfill on what you're selling. But even before that, you need to get really clear on who it is that I'm selling to. Even within a practice area, there's so many different demographics of who you could be selling to. Let's, take estate planning. You could be selling to young parents of kids who are early in their journey, or you could be selling to people who are retired and they're worried about what's going to happen to them in retirement, and are their kids going to fight when they die over their money. But at the young stage, they're concerned about what's going to happen to my kids if both of us die in a plane crash. So those are totally different conversations. And if you're approaching the market with, I don't know which one of these it is, now you're going to start mixing those two together, and then people are completely going to be just confused and not going to resonate with what you have to share. So
100%.
Yeah.
The another couple resources for folks that want to follow up on this. Love David C. Baker's book, The Business of Expertise. It's not necessarily speaking directly to law firms, but lawyers are in the expertise business. And he talks about positioning is the whole game plan. So how you position, what makes you unique. You mentioned demographics. You can go deep in a demographic. You can go deep in a psychographic. But that's what's going to help you stand out. When you ask, and this is what I love when you ask lawyers this, who's your audience? I'm a personal injury lawyer. Anybody who's hurt in my state. It's like, no, that's never. You've just created a huge field of competition for yourself because you do what everybody does. You want to be whittling it down to, in a perfect world, there's only a handful of people that do what you do. You gotta be careful because if this is a topic for another conversation too. You don't want to niche yourself out of any clients, right? If you're just like, oh, I handle people who have injuries in Illinois to their pinky toe, right? There's probably not enough business there to support a practice.
Right, but if you become the motorcycle injury lawyer or the construction workplace lawyer, then you're specifically dealing with one type of injury, one type of industry, and you can learn about what it is that's bothering them. What are their gripes? What are their complaints? Which are going to be different. Somebody who gets hurt on the job is going to be a totally different mindset and what's bothering them than somebody who got hit on the highway.
Right.
What was David Seeger's book's name again?
The Business of Expertise.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's standing out. We talked earlier. We run EOS and Traction. They talk about it in the context of your list, which is essentially your target audience, and your 3 uniques. But you don't have to be. It's marketing 101. If you can't figure out what makes you stand out, why would you expect anybody else? There it is.
Big fan of Traction right there.
Love Traction. If you can't figure out what it is that makes you unique, how do you expect your clients to figure out, your potential clients, your referral partners to figure out what makes you unique, why they should refer business to you or hire you? That's a very good point. In the infancy mode, that's what you got to answer those questions, and those might change over time. That's okay. It's okay to evolve. But you want to be going, whether you say riches in the niches or unique selling proposition, whatever you're going to call it, what makes you stand out is critically important. And here's the thing too. There's another thing that, especially for lawyers in the infancy stage, they'll say, well, look, I can't compete with a lot of these lawyers. These guys have been doing this. People have been doing this for 30 years. I don't have the experience. But guess what you have? You might have technological capability that someone that's been practicing for 30, 40 years doesn't have. You might have more bandwidth, so you can provide better responsive service to them. So those are the types of things that when you're kind of mind mapping or brainstorming what it is that helps you stand out, those can be huge competitive advantages for you if you're a brand new lawyer.
Yeah, and also as a brand new lawyer, chances are you're young or younger. You have relevancy that the other person doesn't have. The marketplace. Yes, if the client is a 60 or 70-year-old, they're going to have an affinity to that older attorney. But if your target market is 30s or 40-year-olds coming in, they're going to be much happier with a 25-year-old attorney than they're going to be with a 60-year-old attorney.
Yeah, I think those are all part of that audience identification in the context of what you can do, how you can deliver service better than the competition, how you're going to stand out. Because let's face it, it's crowded, it's competitive out there in a lot of the consumer-facing practice areas, and more so than ever. Now, the good news is that there are all sorts of tools now that can help support you in communicating that, but you've got to have that message locked down. Elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it, that just keeps reinforcing everything that you do so that it resonates with every conversation you have in a professional context. People know what you do and why you're the right choice and who you're the right choice for.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So you figure out who it is that you serve. You figure out that you have the capability of providing this particular set of services. So you get clarity on that. Now, where do you start? Where do you start to shop for clients, and what does that look like? Right. And I know you're going to tell me it depends, but
yep, you can just put that on repeat.
Yes. But so what are the options as far as where somebody starts? I mean, my guess is that somebody's not starting with Google pay-per-click ads. They're not. I mean, maybe they are. You'll tell me, but
Yeah.
I'm guessing that we're not starting at a complex strategy. We're going to start somewhere simple. So what does that look like?
So the answer is, where is that buyer persona, client persona going, and how are they making decisions about dealing with these life legal issues that they're facing? So if, you know, a big, let's just do some of the hypotheticals here. So
Mm-hmm.
you're let's say you do estate planning in a very small community. The people in that community likely all know each other, and they congregate in areas. Maybe it's a religious setting, maybe it's a state fair or something. Those are the places that you want to be going. Go where they are. Where are they? Are they, in your community? Are most people spending their time online? Are they online all the time? In Chicago, it's going to be a lot different. Internet adoption and access to smartphones and high-speed internet is different than it is in a rural community. And so I'm trying to give that juxtaposition, because the answer is that go where they are, and then start thinking about how do they access answers to questions, information to pursue the hiring process. One other big thing that lawyers always miss is that a lot of your next clients need to engage you before they even know they need a lawyer. So talk about pay-per-click. Everybody's buying $100 clicks for Chicago personal injury lawyer, New York DUI lawyer, because the marketing people say, well, they're lower funnel, high buy intent, their business lookups are extremely relevant. A lot of people, though, might not be focused on things like, personal injury context, an answer to a very specific medical issue that often arises from in a malpractice context, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the answer might be, hey, if those are the people that I serve, I need to have content on my website that gets indexed by Google that comes up for this longer tail query about, in the context of birth injury, maybe it's like some kind of hypoxic ischemic brain injury, because here, you got to put yourself in their shoes, right? They just had a baby, and something's gone wrong. They don't know anything about this, and they're freaking out. This is the worst thing that's could ever happen. They don't know about malpractice or anything like that. They're just like, what's wrong with my baby? As a lawyer, though, in a malpractice context, like, hey, maybe there is something here for you to investigate. And so answering those questions on your website, getting those index. And the other thing is, maybe that's not the greatest example. It's actually, obviously a very emotional example, but a lot of those longer tail queries in search, they're not as competitive. So especially, now, and again, well, I presume it'll still be a COVID world when this gets released. But right now, you talk about you're newer, you don't have a lot of work to do. You spend some time creating this content, the longer tail content, start planting those seeds now, because, think about the things that are on your potential client's mind that they're going to be searching for over the next weeks, months, years. And that's really applies whether it's search marketing, whether it's networking. Go where they are and get inside their head. I'm sorry, I tend to kind of rant and rave about this stuff because I live it every day, but I'll give you one more thing, and then I'll shut up and let you talk. Thinking about just ask them, right? Ask people how they describe the issues that you help with, right? So lawyers will say things like, I use the word malpractice. Nobody knows, if you've never lived in that context, you don't know what the word malpractice means. So ask them, like, hey, how would you describe what I do and who I help? Ask family members, ask friends, what kind of problems do I help people with? Oh, you're this kind of lawyer, right? Use that language as part of your content development. And, again, to just kind of pull it full circle, and I promise I'll shut up. It's better to spend the sweat equity at the start than it is to drop serious money on advertising, in my opinion. Unless you're independently wealthy from a former lifetime and you have a massive marketing and advertising budget, invest the time, plant the seeds with the time. Don't go out and take out a small business loan for pay-per-click. My personal opinion.
Yeah, totally. I I think we might have even touched upon it. Oh no, it was in a live stream where I talked about whether what I believe is worth borrowing money for. I do think that it is beneficial potentially in the growth of your firm at some point to get a line of credit or a loan to put into your marketing budget if there's a payoff that so you've tested with a much smaller budget and you know that if you spend X amount of dollars, it's going to take you 6 months, but you're going to get it 4 or 5X or 6X return on that money. Once you've proven that, it does make sense potentially to borrow money in order to grow your business. Of course, you need to be able to
Absolutely.
support the business that comes from it. But I'm in 100% agreement not to go into debt to test your marketing, to try different
Right.
things, because you'll go through that very quickly and you'll have nothing to show for it other than some learning experiences if you're lucky. So, um, yeah, totally. I love everything that you just shared. One thing that I share, I learned this from, I don't know if you're familiar with the company Digital Marketer,
Hmm.
but they do marketing training for marketing teams in companies. I'm in that world. I get a lot of my education from them. And one of the things that they teach is the client journey. So the client starts off in this state of pain and unhappiness, and ultimately you need to bring them to this place of joy and happiness. If you look at your client journey, if you look at them when they're in that state of pain, often that's before they need you, right? And what Gyi has been sharing with us, and I just want to color it a different way for you, or just paint the picture a little bit differently so maybe it's clearer, is if you, instead of looking at, okay, when is my client looking for my services, look at the journey, go back a few steps in their journey to look at where are they looking for solutions before that. You gave the example of the hypoxic brain injury, birth and malpractice, but there's every practice area has the same example. You're in family law. What happens before somebody goes and looks for a divorce attorney? Well, they try to fix their marriage. They try to work it out. They work with a therapist, or they don't, or there's resistance to therapy, right? But if they did, maybe they could avoid a divorce. So maybe you're putting out content on how to help them fix their marriage, and they're in your world and you're providing that level of support and information. And when that doesn't work, the natural next step is to take the next step with you. um,
Exactly. And
yeah,
partner, hey, you're a lawyer. Why not partner with counselors and therapists and do co-branded webinars and blog posts so that your audiences that overlap, you're there for them when they need you later.
yeah, absolutely. So there's so much opportunity, and this all goes back to knowing who you're serving, right? Once you identify who you're serving, you can then figure out what their journey is. You can then figure out where to find them, where do they congregate. You can then figure out what are the pain points and how do I talk to them. So if you really put your thinking cap on, that this all will start to become clear to you. And if you do this right, you could probably hit a home run right out of the gate. You start having success right away. If you don't, then there's a learning experience. But one of the things that I've found is action creates clarity. You got to get out there and do it. So once you figured these things out, don't sit there and think about, oh, is this the right next move? Just take action. Just do something, because you're either going to succeed or you're not going to succeed. And it's not going to be that you failed. It's going to be that you learned a lesson and now you're going to try the next thing. All right.
Yep.
That's the infant stage. So where do we go from there? So somebody starts to get some traction in their marketing. They're figuring this stuff out. They know how to close sales. The business is coming in. Now we're putting fuel on the fire. What does that start to look like? And how do we start tracking this stuff?
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to start at this stage, which is you got to start at some point to treat your business like a business. And that means having budgets, having forecasts, having pipelines. And, one of the, even for firms that have been established for a long time, I think this has changed, or at least in the last 10 to 15 years that I've been living this. The mindset of practicing attorneys is shifting towards this concept of business of law. But it used to be marketing budget. I don't know. What are you even talking about? I don't even think about my practice like a business like that. And so the point is that in this context, you have to start thinking about a marketing budget and how much should you even spend? Again, it depends. Every practice is different. It depends again. A guidepost, folks will talk about 10% of revenue as a general benchmark, just to give somebody something to start to wrap your head around. But if you don't have a budget, if you just start spending money, you put yourself back in that same position of like, there's no discipline. There's no discipline or accountability into how you're spending. So you got to have a budget. You got to treat it just like you'd have a personal budget at home. And then it becomes a lot easier. You say, okay, look, got this much money to invest, this much time to invest. Remember, time is money too. And then we're going to forecast that this investment should start to hit these different KPIs, whether that's a number of inbound inquiries, calls, live chat requests, form fills. Maybe it's subscribers to an email list. Maybe it's people tuning in for your podcast. But those metrics, I would call those kind of like indirect marketing metrics. They're showing you're moving in the right direction, especially if you're talking about qualified potential client inquiries. But ultimately, you got to connect those back to fees so that you can do things like return on ad spend analysis, return on investment analysis. But once you start spending money, especially when you start spending money, you're in this toddler phase, you've got to hold it accountable.
Do you have any recommendations as far as a specific tool set to use when you're starting? Okay, we're in the toddler phase. You're not ready to outsource to a company potentially for that. Where do you start?
Yeah, so the free version is Google Analytics for web. Anything that happens online, Google Analytics is your answer. It's free. So Google Analytics can be you can do, if you search for Google Analytics and goals and event tracking, you can track stuff that happens on your website. I guess the other thing to throw in there, there's a free version of this too, although I don't advise starting here, but HubSpot has a free CRM. So CRM is the other piece to this puzzle. You've got to have a place. When I say CRM, I mean in this context, client relationship management. So you have to have a place that you're managing that journey that you were talking about, right? So that someone from, whether it's if you want to use old fashioned marketing funnels, awareness, consideration, you're moving them through that journey. The CRM tracks that. So that applies offline, online, whatever. A CRM could simply be a list of your contacts on a yellow pad, and they're in this column, they're in just met them. In this column, they're in we've talked about my services. This is the column of retainer. I don't recommend that, but that's the basic version. Spreadsheet can accomplish that. And I will admit my bias. I've mentioned this before. I'm an advisor to Lawmatics. Lawmatics is a CRM. That's a tool that you can use to do to track the evolution. But a lot of the major tools, a lot of the major players that we talked about from a practice management standpoint are working towards adding the CRM functionality. But they various levels of investment. Salesforce is a CRM, a little bit more expensive, but that's the nerve center to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Clio bought Lexicata, which is now Clio Grow. That's another CRM platform. But yeah, it really one of the things you talked at the beginning of, hey, download the Clio Trends Report and read it, and you'll figure out what needs to be done. One of the things that they highlighted in there is they reached out to 2,000 law firms as if they were a new client seeking services, and 2/3 of them never returned the call or never responded to the initial conversation.
It crushes me every time I hear it. Time I hear it.
Right. And that's because 2/3 of them are either not listening to their voicemail or don't have a CRM in place, right? So here's a good place to plug Smith AI, one of our sponsors of the Law Firm Growth Summit, and also the recent COVID live stream. You definitely want to check them out. There's a code that we're giving out now during the COVID live stream, which you can use, and that's Smith COVID-19, to get some free extra services from them. But if you're getting people into voicemail and they're not getting answered live, that's a problem right there. So you definitely want to have a live answering service, a virtual receptionist service like Smith AI to be that front line for you. But the CRM is critical because things get lost. I mean, you can't even a spreadsheet. You can't run off a spreadsheet for long. Once you have more than 10 leads, you're inundated, and things start falling through the cracks. And you need to know where your prospects are in this journey with you. So totally, I agree with that 100%. I guess the question that I have that people might be wondering is like, there's so many tools to learn. There's so many pieces to have, like Lexicata. When is the right time to implement Lexicata into my firm? I'm still trying to figure out my practice management software and actually
Mm-hmm.
use it to the full context of what it's there for, like all the features. I'm not even making use of all of that. So how do I now go and add another tool that I now need to learn and figure out how it works? You know,
Right.
there's got to be a place where it makes sense to implement that. Do you have any guidance?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of take it back to the beginning of the conversation, which is start with the tools that are essential to serve the client through the journey. And so something like an intake system, that's essential. Like to me, that's very early on. Maybe not infant, but certainly early toddler. Uh,
Right.
you need something that will capture uh, contacts. And so again, if I started with nothing, I would probably start with I mean, honestly, I'm going to say this, and people are going to beat me up for it. But to me, CRM is even more important than practice management. I mean, you have to deal with the flow from inquiry to retainer before you have the first representation. And so if your practice management tool has CRM, great. If it doesn't, then you got to be thinking about, I would be thinking of CRM and practice management at the start. So you talk about something that does intake, you got to have something that handles intake efficiently and effectively from day one.
Yeah. Yeah, and people gripe about the cost of software. I mean, software is so insignificant today. The amount of power that you have in these cloud applications, and you never need to pay for upgrades. You know, you're just paying a subscription fee to have access to it, which really decreases your overhead up front. You know, stop worrying about a $50 or $100 a month expense,
And,
and implement it.
and here's the thing. This is the part that people miss when they start getting into this, so it's so expensive conversation. How much is your time worth? How long does it take for you to handle an intake and to write it down? And how much time is lost for you to shuffle through your filing cabinet and look for lost files? Don't forget to factor those costs of time in when you're comparing it to something that makes your practice more efficient and saves you time.
Yeah, I want to switch it around even on top of that. So time is one thing, but imagine you could have closed one more lead if you wouldn't have dropped the ball, if you would have stayed on top of it, if you would have contacted them quicker, sooner, faster, better, right? I, I don't know the business model of your firm, but if you're running it right, if you've been listening to my podcast long enough, then you're charging enough for a flat fee engagement that one client will fully pay, not for 1 year, but probably 5 years of that piece of software. So you know, sometimes it's being penny wise and pound foolish, and that's really what we're talking about here. Like, you know, there are places to cut corners, and this is not one of them.
I'm so glad you articulated in that light because I'm a marketing person. The marketing tools like that help convert more business or deliver a better experience, they're worth their weight in gold. You can't even, it's not even fair to compare them because you're talking about things that actually increase the number of people who hear about you, turning into a fee. If you weigh the 50, 60, $100 a month to your fee, it's usually to a new fee that you wouldn't have generated otherwise, it's usually a no-brainer.
Okay. Now, where does Google My Business fit into the picture of the broad scheme of things, and
Yeah.
how much do we? I know that there's a lot of different listing services out there, but I feel like Google is very quickly overtaking all of them. So
Funny how they do that.
yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad you brought up Google My Business. That's right in my wheelhouse. Well, in a normal world, because right now there's all sorts of problems with Google My Business because of COVID. But for people that don't know, Google My Business is basically your tool, a free tool that Google provides to list your business in Google and Google Maps, and really it's kind of like where all of Google products are for your business. So it's like, and from a 30,000 foot view, it's often the instance of first impression when someone gets your name. So here's how that works. Someone says, hey, so-and-so does this kind of work. Everybody goes and looks the person up, whether they're going to look them up just to see their phone number or where they're located, but they expect now to see reviews and all this stuff. And for most searches, that's going to happen on Google. Google's the leading, if you've been living under a rock, Google's the search engine. And that's where most people go to do these kind of searches, regardless of how they hear about you, whether they're doing it's a, you know, we would call a brand search. They search on your name or your firm name. And Google My Business is what's going to come up if you've claimed your profile, verified your profile, make your information's accurate. It's free for you to do this stuff. But the real estate that Google gives this in searches on your name is amazing. They have these things called one boxes. It basically shows all sorts of business information, images. You can put videos in there. If it's permissible in your state, I suggest checking out, like putting client testimonial videos in your Google My Business profile. It's got reviews on there. It's got your phone number, your address, frequently asked questions section. Honestly, and there's a debate going on in internet marketing land about what's more important in Google My Business or a website. I think you need both, but for a brick and mortar business, if you've got a physical office, I implore you to consider Google My Business, because you're reducing the friction for people that want to find information about you. That's what this is all about. Make it easier for them to find information, make it easier for them to get answers to their question, make it easier for them to understand what working with you is like and what you're all about.
Yeah, totally. I actually having a brain fart of what it was that I was going to ask you on this. That was.
I can talk about Google My Business for days, so I can just rant and rave more than I even am now about Google My Business.
Yeah, what's the value of reviews on Google My Business?
What's the value of them?
Mm-hmm.
Your next clients are going to make a lot of their decision making is going to be based upon your reviews on Google My Business. So lawyers hate this, right? This is not fair. You cannot rate my services and turn me into a commodity like some kind of Amazon product. Well, bad news. This is the democratization that the internet has created. Rich Barton, who is a really smart person, one of the founder of Zillow and a bunch of other tech companies. And when Avo used to do Lawyeronomics, this was years ago, you can look it up, but he had this thing where if it can be rated, it will be rated. And lawyers are no exception. You know, Avo did their thing. Google has a built-in review system. And if you search for let's talk about non-brand category searches. So divorce lawyer in Chicago. Google shows a local map pack that has reviews in it. And it's, and those, legal services consumers are making their decisions, especially if you don't know a lawyer. It's not a referral situation. They're just looking up lawyers. They want to find lawyers near them. A lot of it goes based on those reviews and the stars and the local map packs that are driven by Google My Business. And let me tell you, seeing the data across hundreds of law firms, and this is another thing that lawyers can't stand, but a lot of times on a mobile device, the consumer is looking at the review, looking at the listings in the map pack and clicking the click to call button right from the search result. They don't even get to the landing page. They don't get to your website. They don't get to see all of your fancy, unique selling propositions and all the investments you made and all the content on your site. They're literally calling based on the information they see in that local pack listing and immediately calling you. So that's why one thing that we recommend is consider putting a tracking number in your Google My Business listing. So I'm not going to get into all this NAP consistency, mumbo jumbo stuff, but the short version is my recommendation, primary number, tracking number, backup alternative number, your actual real office number. That's kind of the workaround that's been working these days so far. But track those calls. You are going to be astonished by legal services consumer behavior in that local context of searching for local lawyers and clicking right from those Google My Business listings before they even get to your website.
Yeah, totally. And I remember now what I wanted to mention earlier. But before I do, because now I have a question based on this, do you know if the Google algorithm is choosing people to put into the map pack based on the quality and quantity of reviews that they have?
So the honest answer to that is nobody knows, but we have very strong hunch that they do. We have very strong hunch. Here's some factors that we think go into local map packs. Number one, the engage behavioral user metrics. So I'll give you the kind of the shortish version, but Google is an answer engine, and so Google and they're an advertising platform, so they sell ads, and they want the people that do searches on their platform to click on ads, and so they have this. They put a lot of value in something called click-through rate for ads. So that means that out of the number of times your ad's shown, the amount of clicks that it gets, the rate that those clicks happen, Google says, okay, we're going to give those ads a better rating, maybe even reduce their cost per clicks because they're satisfying the user journey. And so more clicks for us means more money. So my thinking is, if they're using it over on the paid ads, why wouldn't they also be considering behavioral metrics on the organic side of the house, especially in the local context? So in that was a little bit longer probably than you wanted, but clicks onto your listing, onto phone numbers, onto videos, onto images, those all play a role. And guess what drives clicks? Things like reviews, right? You got more reviews, you're gonna get more clicks, more behavioral signals. The other thing is that we think is that even the words that people use in leaving reviews help Google understand which listings to show. So sometimes you'll see like a review highlighted with the matching to the search query. So Google tracks everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see something bolded in there and it matches your search query, it's a good chance they're using that as a signal in terms of showing those results. And if you go search for how to list your business in Google, they break down their relevance, distance, and prominence factors. And for me, there's very little question that reviews go into that prominence factor.
Yeah, and definitely be really clear when you set this up as to what your practice area is, because when somebody's looking for a specific practice area, Google's going to scour the website to see if your website mentions it. If you already gave them that information saying this is what I do, probably you're getting presented before somebody who happens to have that mentioned on their website.
Yeah,
One
no, and I go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know how much more Google My Business you want to talk about. Happy to do it.
Not
But
much.
another thing too, okay, categories. Make sure your primary category matches the category you want to publicize, because I tell you, you'll see all the time someone searches for a divorce lawyer and you do divorce, but you got personal injury lawyer in your category. Guess what the consumer's sitting there thinking? Oh, this is a personal injury lawyer, not a divorce lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
then I'm
that goes
done with
back to
Google
the
My
initial
Business.
conversation, which is get really, really clear on who you serve. Until you've completely mastered one practice area, don't try to offer more than one. Um, what I wanted to share before was I heard a really neat trick that you can do, and that is to take your firm name and your name and run pay-per-click ads for that. So when somebody searches for that, you're also getting above the search results, you're getting ads that you get to control and present to them whatever you want to present when somebody's looking for your name. And that can actually drive clicks for them to call you, or drive them to a feel-good article about you, as opposed to what they might find in search, which is luck of the draw of what Google is serving up that day. So a nice, neat little trick there. So as we're running out of time here, because now with this pandemic situation, I actually have daycare hours that I'm responsible for.
Same.
We're we're gonna wrap it up here. I just want to give you two openings here. Any more? And I think I need to have you back for another interview, because there's a ton that we didn't cover, right? We only covered
Love to do
infant
it.
and toddler, right? We didn't get past that, so definitely want to come back to this conversation. Any parting words of wisdom, pieces of advice, last thoughts that you want to share with our audience, and then also how do they follow up with you? Anything that you want to offer them as a next step if somebody really enjoyed this talk and wants to check you out some more.
Sure. So full circle, don't forget the client experience with all of these tools and systems and workflows and processes. Always test it from the consumer standpoint, your potential client standpoint, because again, you get shiny object syndrome. You start implementing all this stuff, and you realize, oh, I directed my live chat to an email that nobody's handling, or I directed my phone to a number that nobody's fielding, or some other kind of problem that just provides a terrible experience. And it's that experience, that relationship and reputation, is still a relationship and reputation business, even with all this technology. That's kind of where I'd love to get people thinking. Hold the vendors and yourself and your own budgets and your money and your time accountable for a result. Define that in advance. Keep trying to adjust it, but trying to strive for that goal. And finally, thank you so much for having me. If people want to follow up, we do a weekly legal tips email. You can go to attorneysync.com, attorneysync.com. You can email me, gyi@attorneysync.com. Happy to answer questions. Love talking about this stuff if you can't tell from my ranting and raving. And I'm pretty active on Twitter. That's at GYITSAKALAKIS.com. Usually if you just do @GYI, it starts to populate for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique name. And on that note, thank you so much for your time and for coming here. But I want to leave you triggered something, and I just want to share my own personal experience where everybody needs to continuously learn. I think that I'm a pretty decent marketer for my business, but I had a coaching call last night, and I offer a free coaching session that leads into a 90-day group coaching program. And the person that I was talking to at the end of the coaching call, they said, this has been amazing, but I really wish that we would have met 3 months ago. And then she said, why do you hide the fact that you offer this 90-day group coaching program? So that's understanding what the customer experience is and what they're seeing. I thought that I was out there promoting my free coaching sessions and doing all of that, but obviously I'm not doing a good enough job because this person, it was hidden to them. They didn't see it. So that you got to listen for those cues and look for them, and then you can learn from that. So I definitely am going to be going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, where's the gap? What can I do better so that people know more about this and can take that opportunity when they need it, and not have to wait for it to somehow get found as a needle in a haystack. So love that thought and that you went back to it now as we close out. So Gyi, thank you so much. And definitely going to have you back. We'll figure out when that's going to be. Maybe folks, if you have questions that you would like Gyi to answer, send them over my way. In the show notes, you'll see how to do that. There's an email address. You can go there. The show notes are always at profitwithlaw.com/number of the episode. I'm not sure which episode number this one's going to be, but you can put that in with the number of the episode. You'll get to the show notes page. We'll link up all the books that were recommended. There were 3 of them that we spoke about, as well as Gyi's website, Next Steps with him, and just whatever stage you're at, just go back and make sure that you've got these basics in place, and just keep at it, and you'll start measuring and make sure you have that that CRM in place so that you're not dropping the ball. And this is all you're gonna figure it all out. It's gonna all work out for you.
Stay healthy.
Yes, stay healthy. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.